Welcome back to the Division 2. I've written down a big list of notes. I say big, there's probably about 10 different topics I'd like to talk about, and this is all based on the state the game is in at the moment. In my opinion, the Division 2 has never been in such a bad state. We'll start things off with players are actually going out of their way now to make their own player state of the game to discuss topics related to the game because they are never heard by these developers. Bans and rollbacks were implemented for a small amount of players that actually glitched and even players that didn't glitch on the game, and whenever a question is asked about other exploits or if there is any reconsideration for the rollback, they get shut down instantly. And I mean, the rollback hasn't taken effect yet, that will happen on Tuesday, but regardless of what happens with that, whether it was a scare tactic, whether it's actually going to happen, it was a bad call for the developers to do that because there were 4 days where the glitch didn't actually exist, so it was guaranteed 4 days worth of legit loot, and that's all being taken off the players too. The final fix for the unintended damage exploit, I say exploit, quote unquote exploit, because I don't believe it actually was. That final fix was on the 27th of March, yet players have lost everything they've obtained in-game if the rollbacks go ahead. All seasonal content, all shade levels, and all legit loot from the 17th to the 31st of March. Obviously because it was a lot easier for the developers to do, but as I said, the final 4 of those 14 days were completely unnecessary and 100% unfair, and bans shouldn't have been given to players in the first place because it was the developer's fault. Players abused it, and yes, some will say that you had the choice to use it or not, but with the game's lack of quality, it was the developer's fault. If they had tested the expansion, either internally or even released a controversial PTS, then the damage glitch would possibly never have existed. If you look at some other companies, I'm going to be saying Bungie for example, they actually state that if they believe an exploit, a glitch, or anything like that is their fault, they will take full responsibility, players won't be touched. But obviously Massive Entertainment can't take responsibility for them messing up with the game, and they just decided to ban players. I would totally agree, if they were to ban players that used it in PvP, I would fully agree with that. If there were any third-party pieces of software or something like that, like an actual hack, if that was the case, then that would be totally understandable for bans and stuff as well. Once the bans were dished out, I would normally not say that this has been done out of spite for players using the glitch, but there are so many things on this list that it kind of leads towards this is what the developers are doing. They're trying to create controversial sort of topics for players to talk about so that it attracts more people to the game. Because between the 29th of February to the 29th of March, I believe for PlayStation 4 alone, there were over 400,000 new players. That's not 100% accurate, don't quote me on it, but that's what I've seen from looking at sales charts and things like that. So a lot of new players do come to the game, especially when it's controversial, people are hating, people are loving it, like the game at the same time. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what anyone says, negativity definitely spreads a lot faster than positivity. I've always said it, I always will. But if you look at what's happening in the game currently, Kenley College opened, which is the best place to get the Diamondback Exotic rifle. It's not the only way, and I know a lot of players probably won't be bothered, but that Diamondback is an exotic in the game. It's a guaranteed way to get it from Kenley College. You literally just have to complete the 3 expeditions. And that was normally set on a 1 week up, 2 week down basis, and it just so happens to be open the week the players are banned. The new seasonal manhunt that was released, it got released with double XP. Not that double XP matters for some players that are currently season level 100, but I mean it's probably going to help out with shade levels. And not only that, it's happening in the week where players are banned. The game went on sale. Again, I mean, it's always on sale, but the week players got banned, I'm going to use that again. It was like 67% off. Exotic drop rates have been significantly higher than normal for a lot of players. My drop rate when I did a test was 50%. When you are playing on heroic difficulty, which is what I was playing on, you're supposed to have an 8% drop chance. I had an exotic every single other run. The 2nd, the 4th and the 6th run I did of the bank headquarters mission, I got an exotic drop. One of them being a triple god rolled pair of Sawyer's knee pads. And if you haven't seen it, I did a video yesterday showcasing the differences in exotics. Because we all know exactly how they were before the bans, and I showcased what they were like during the bans. So if you are interested in that, there will be a link at the top of the description to go and watch that video. Alongside all of this, the Code of Conduct, for those of you that don't know, was actually edited at the time of the bans to make people believe the damage glitch broke those terms, And then to put the icing on the cake, there were surveys being emailed to players to take part of. The survey the players were asked to do became unavailable to fill out literally a couple of hours after it was emailed because they had enough responses. Either they set the limit to 100 people or remembered how much they fucked the community over, so they closed it. It was a really bad idea doing that, in my opinion, when they've just banned a lot of players, some which were completely innocent. That would be like someone creating the most clickbait video you've ever seen that ends up, like, this is a complete exaggeration, but a video that gets 1,000 likes and 1,000,000 dislikes, and then the content creator asking players to go back to that video and go leave a like on something that's fully misleading. You don't ban players and then send out surveys asking for feedback from players that have been banned. That is literally just a kick in the teeth. But anyway, moving on. Players are literally at this moment in time just wanting some recognition and to be noticed. The balancing has been terrible since Warlords released, probably the worst balancing ever. There has been more bugs than ever, new and even some as old as the game, like the Revive Hive, which has been broken since the release of the game back in March 2019. There are constant lies from the dev team about bugs being fixed and things being balanced when there's always small things being fixed that aren't relevant to anything the player base is asking for. One of their fixes for the damage glitch was to actually delta error players, which would kick them off the servers when they were using the glitch. They are always stating that they're working on fixes for things and them things take time, but they can get maintenance out daily for fixes when it's important to them. The developers have always stated they don't want the players to be powerful, so builds are nerfed into the ground with each and every single title update. Gansler, I don't know if everyone knows him, but he, in my opinion, is the worst community-related employee that I have ever spoken to, and I believe he needs to be sacked. Because he is a voice of the community, he listens to players' feedback and then passes it on to the dev team. He was on Twitter telling people that he would find out about the rollbacks the following day to people asking him, so when I asked him on that day, he replied and told me that his Twitter account isn't an official announcement account. And he then linked me to the Ubisoft forum post, so technically he still helped me, but he took the worst possible route, as he could have simply replied with a screenshot of the forum post, or just did something which made the experience more pleasant. I've had run-ins with Gansler in the past, they've never ever been a good experience, and when you are paid to help a community, you need to have a professional approach, and Chris has literally never ever had that. For those of you that watched the state of the game, you would have seen him in the last couple. The damage glitch that got players banned for using it, it was removed from the game on the 27th of March. That was their last maintenance to fix, like, exploits to do with damage. That said, the damage glitch came back the day players were banned. Literally on the 31st of March, they did a maintenance, they banned a load of players, and the damage glitch was put back into the game. It really does seem as though the developers are doing things out of spite for players doing the glitch, because there are a lot of players in the game right now that are still damage glitching, and nothing is being done to them, although it could be a tactic from the developers to give them reasoning behind putting out a second ban wave. What makes that even worse is the fact that players have been warned their accounts are now flagged. If you've been banned, your account is now flagged. If you go onto the game and at any point you decide to glitch, exploit, or even if you're one of the unlucky ones and you just matchmake and there's someone in your group doing it, your account will be permanently banned. I don't know if it's being used as a scare tactic. I really fucking hope it has, but it's working. It's definitely working. There are players worried for their accounts, for the hours and hours they've put into this game, because they were originally banned due to matchmaking and being put in a team with other players using glitches. They never did anything themselves. This has honestly been handled in the worst way possible. Moving on, build diversity has never ever been worse in this game. Gear 2.0 was supposed to simplify builds and implement meaningful loot. I mean, it did technically simplify builds, but in terms of meaningful loot, there is nothing meaningful about getting purple drops on legendary difficulty, and there is nothing meaningful about getting 100 mods for every 70 pieces of gear you get with 0 god roll mods out of the 100. I have literally had 3 god roll mods from more than likely thousands of drops since Warlords released. Tank builds are completely pointless unless you are running like legendary difficulty or possibly the raid. If you're just playing on heroic and lower, then there is no point of running a tank build, especially because running 1.8 million armor should give you more survivability than taking 2 shots to go down. you pretty much have to run a shield, and that shield will absorb all the damage so that you don't get wrecked instantly. Skill builds aren't great either, since you need overcharge for your skills to be the best they possibly can, and that overcharge is only obtainable in a couple of forms. The Exotic Acosta's Go Bag talent, or the Energized talent, and I'm not even sure if there are more. But what makes it even worse for skill builds and players wanting to use those builds is, let's say for example your turret lasts for 90 seconds. When you proc overcharge, it only ever lasts for 15 seconds. So you times that 15 by 6, you have to proc overcharge 6 times to get the most out of your one turret use, if you're in a room that long. But I think they should have looked into that a lot better than what they did. The only really viable build type, or the easiest build type for players to make, is a crit chance, crit damage build with a rifle. I've been running the Baker's Dozen and the Pestilence for a long time now, RIP Baker's Dozen. The classic M1A, the Fox's Prayer, the Contractor's Gloves, there's a couple more things in there. They are all being nerfed, so the best build in the game at the moment is being taken down probably 500 notches. And we're now going to have to scrap and scavenge and just go out and put more and more hours into a grind to get a build that could possibly work. I haven't managed to actually knock much time off the video, and I do apologise for the length of it. I felt this is kind of needed. Like, the state of the game is so bad at the moment. And moving on to the final thing, we put all of our trust and hope in this development team, and I mean, hope is the only thing we have left. And they have never ever really delivered. The best part of this game was level 1 to 30. As soon as we all hit end game, this is for players that have played since the launch of the game. For new players, I mean, if you eventually get there, when you eventually get there, you'll probably notice the same thing too. Level 1 to 30 was an incredible experience. As soon as you hit endgame, it was just downhill from there. They had problems with the world tier sort of experience, and then the raid come out. That was all over the place. There was lack of content throughout the whole of year 1. Now, Warlords has released as part of year 2 with new season passes and stuff, and it's all just one big shit show if you ask me. They should have literally taken the foundation of Division 1 and worked upon that and built better than Division 1. They got Division 1 to a good state by the end of it. Bear in mind that took them a few years. They claimed to players, they stated that they'd learned from their mistakes, and it was just more and more mistakes, and even old mistakes from Division 1 that have just been, I don't know, they kind of evolved and they got worse than the original game. But to put a little bit of context behind what I mean when I say they've never delivered, PvP never ever gets attention. I'm not a PvP player, but I know how much the PvP side of the community cry out for this stuff and they're never heard. But it's been months since we saw Redstorm, which is the team in charge of the PvP side of the game. It's been months since we saw them in a State of the Game stream. And the developers are always catering to specific types of play. Solo players have always been neglected, probably worse now than ever. Casual players are being neglected more and more now. It's just sad because the game has the potential to be amazing, and don't get me wrong with this video, it does deliver fun in, I'm going to say, a lot of areas. Yet the execution and care by Massive Entertainment has been appalling, especially how they treat their customers. But I'm going to leave the video there. I want to know all of your thoughts and stuff in the comments. Have I been too harsh in certain areas? Because at the end of the day, like, this is my opinion, and I tried my best to be constructive with it. I didn't want any of it to come across as hate. But I mean, the game, as I said, in my opinion, is in the worst state it's ever been in, and something needs to be done. Like, players are going to be leaving this game. I don't want to have to leave a game that I paid for. A lot of players don't, but they're banning players, they're rolling back accounts. They're banning the wrong players, they're not banning some players that have actually glitched and owned up to it as well. But that's going to do it for me. I will see you soon with more Division 2 content. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, make sure you let me know what you're thinking about this game in the comments. Thank you for watching.